The end of Parshat Emor has a short section about damages. And it tells us, Ish at-she yitein mum bamito ka'ashe asa ken ye'aseh lo. A person who puts a blemish into a member of his nation, as he did, so shall be done to him. Shever tachat shever, whether it is a fracture for a fracture, ayin tachat ayin, an eye for an eye, shein tachat shein, a tooth for a tooth, ka'ashe yitein mum ba'adam kein yenaten bo. Just like he put a blemish into another person, so shall be done to him. Now it's clear from the Talmud that there is no such thing as tit for tat revenge when it comes to law. That means that if a person lobbed off the hand, cut off the hand of somebody, assaulted him and cut off his hand, we do not take the perpetrator and cut off their hand. There's no such thing in Judaism. The expression ayin tachat ayin, an eye for an eye, is figurative. And as the Talmud makes very clear in Tractate Bava Kama, it means that the person has to pay monetary compensation. They have to pay for pain, for suffering, for loss of work, and they have to pay for the actual damage that they did. But we don't take out their eye. We don't cut off their hand. It's merely an idiom. It's a biblical idiom. But we could also understand it in a figurative way as follows. Kasher yitein mum ba'adam. When a person puts a blemish into another person, kein yenaten bo, so will be put into him. That doesn't mean necessarily a physical blemish. It doesn't mean that you assaulted the person and now you've caused them to have some type of an injury, knocked off their finger, their eye, whatever the case is. But it means you put a blemish into another person. You said something about them that creates a blemish in their reputation, that people now think that of this person negatively. Says the Torah, just as you put a blemish into that person, so shall be done to you. If a person walks around and makes the habit of insulting other people, calling them names, hurting them, abusing them with words, he will find ultimately that he will be the victim of such behavior. The Talmud speaks about a certain person who went around calling everybody a slave, a slave. They're a person who doesn't have good yichus, good pedigree, they're a slave. And this was a common refrain in that person's mouth. Ultimately, one of the sages said, well, let's check out his lineage. And it was shown that his lineage was not up to scratch whatsoever. And he came from a very dodgy background. So the blemish that one tries to put into another person is often the blemish which is in that very person. The insult, the way in which a person belittles another person is often a problem that person has and that they project onto other people. And therefore the Torah says, Kasher yitein mum ba'adam, just as you put a blemish into another person, kein yenaten bo, that blemish will end up with you. Therefore you have to hold your tongue, not to insult people, to speak to everybody in a dignified way. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.